You did all your base fears, your spiders, the dentist, flying, and then your middle ones, what were they?
Well, what happened is I started to overcome those fears, and as I started to overcome the mundane fears, I just become more aware. So my consciousness expanded. So I just became aware of things. I became aware that I was afraid of my wife. So I started to stand up for myself at home. I was afraid of my mum, so I started to stand up for myself. I was afraid of change. So I'd been in a shitty job in the factory for a long time, nights. I was working shifts, and it was very bad for your constitution. And I was afraid to leave it because it was good money, or I thought it was. So I left that job and just took a day job on a building site. And from that, I started to develop skills. I actually went from being an uneducated labourer to over the next few years to becoming a bricklayer. I'd learned how to lay bricks. But it was very, very hardy, very difficult, very physical. So I gave up that job. And then as I climbed the pyramid and overcame these fears, like I said, not just the fears on the pyramid, but the new fears that were being added to the pyramid, I reached the top fear. I'd been into a karate tournament. I went and fought in Liverpool. I'm not a very good tournament fighter, but I went in and had about 7 fights. And I overcame that fear immediately. And then I was working on building sites. I was starting to teach. My classes were getting bigger. I was starting to teach the concept I'd learned. And then the final fear was a fear of violent confrontation. I was also recognised, Paul, that I was afraid of success because I didn't understand what it was. So it demanded that I educate myself to understand what success to me was. What is it you want to do? What's your dharma? What is it that you're here to do? What's your part of this grand plan? And I knew my part of this grand plan was to talk to people, was to tell stories. But I was too afraid to tell stories because my conditioning told me that I was a piece of shit, that I was nobody, and that people don't want to listen to you. Who would want to listen to you? But when I started to talk truth, which I'd found, certainties, people weren't really listening to me. They were listening to the energy that was coming through me. So I started to become a receptacle for truth. So I would start to talk truth in my classes, and I just started to get fat classes.